Welcome to Confessions of a Parent Coach. I'm Coach, a mother of four, and potty talker, Ann Kaplan. This is the podcast where I confess something from my own parenting and coaching life, teach a lesson around it, and answer your questions. Even we parenting experts are far from perfect, and the real magic happens when we get down with all that imperfection. We get into the gritty side of parenting here, so earbud up and dive in.
Welcome into the podcast, everybody. I'm excited to be here with you again, talking this week about the idea of the impact that we have on our kids. And I decided to make this episode for you after listening to one of my amazing dad clients who is currently going through a divorce talk about how he felt so sad that the way that his marriage had gone and now the divorce is going is affecting his kids. And he used this expression that I cannot get out of my mind, which is kids as casualties. That our kids were the casualty of the conflict in our marriage. Our kids are the casualties of this divorce that we're going through. And he, then I asked him to say more about that. And he used the expression innocent bystanders. I love that expression. It's so evocative. If you have gone through a divorce or you're going through a divorce, this might be already tugging at your heartstrings a little bit. But what I'm going to talk about today is not specific to divorce at all. It is something that we all need to accept and look at and learn how to work with. So I'm going to start us off, as always, with a confession. So maybe about like 5 years ago at this point, maybe less, maybe it was only 4 years ago. Doesn't matter. My son and I were having a pretty knockdown, drag out fight. He wasn't doing very well, and he was just really, really argumentative. And, kind of the fight had kind of like run its course, and we were sort of like on the other side of it. And it's enough of a confession for me to tell you that I had a fight with my kids, because I don't really participate in fights with my kids very often. But Elijah really figured out how to push me past all of my own boundaries with myself and have me parenting in ways that were totally out of integrity at that time. But anyways, the fight was kind of waning, and he was just really sad. And if you had to say, I always feel like nobody wins a fight, but if you had to say who the winner of the fight was, it had been me. And I think one of the things he was really sad about was that he hadn't won the fight. And he said to me, you are just so forceful and so what was the word he used? I was about to say strident, but I promise you he did not use the word strident as a freshman in high school. But he said, you're just so forceful, and you really, go for it when we're in an argument. And I really hate that about you. And I thank God for therapy, because I don't know what, but some magical well of resource sprang up within me. And instead of what I would have probably wanted to do, which was argue with him, and say, no, I'm not, and I don't have to win, and, blah, 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 all the things, kind of fight back all these things he was saying about me that I wish weren't true. And really triggered me to feel that I was, this monster in my kids' eyes. I somehow miraculously was able to just simply say to him, yeah, like one of your biggest challenges in life is to how to figure out, is to figure out how to be happy with me as your mom. Like I am part of your work. The great things about my personality are great for you. And the things about my personality that you find hard, that's part of the challenge of you being you, is having a mom who is me. And I don't know. It was like God himself was speaking through my mouth, because I have to say it was one of my more enlightened moments of saying that to him. And it is so true. And it is so hard for us to accept. And what we do with that truth often is to try to make it not true. And that's what I want to talk about today. So, to bring it back to, the general, not my own specific story, I'm going to tell you another story about me that's going to make this not about me. So before I was working with parents the way that I do now, the way I used to work with parents was as a birth worker. I was a doula and a childbirth educator for many years. And one of the things that I saw a lot in my work was people who had either struggled to get pregnant in the first place or struggled throughout their pregnancy with these things that occurred that made their pregnancies maybe medically challenging or risky or whatever. And what we would be preparing for birth. And really, we know that one of the most important things at a birth that determines the outcome of that birth is the mother's state of kind of surrender and relaxation and trust. And it's really a much harder, understandably, for a parent who has had lots of things go quote unquote wrong to trust that things are going to go okay when it's time to have this baby. And so it's something we talked about a lot. And one of the things that I would say to these clients, and it seemed to kind of help a little bit, is, you know, you, this family that has struggled maybe with fertility issues or pregnancy challenges, you are learning what a lot of parents are able to kick the can down the road and procrastinate realizing, which is we don't have control. These families experienced from the very beginning, from zero, that we don't get to pick. Like for some of these families, they had to accept the fact that like you don't even get to pick if you're gonna have a baby, let alone how your baby's going to be born or how your pregnancy's going. This it's taken out of our hands. But that truth is true for everything. It's true for everyone. It's true for every family. It's true for every parent. It's just that these families had to be kind of slapped in the face with it right out of the chute. And the rest of us, when things go smoothly or how they're supposed to, quote unquote, we're able to delude ourselves into thinking that we have this power and control, that we can, lessen the impact we have on our kids or protect them from being harmed by their childhoods or whatever. We are able to delude ourselves with that, kind of Pollyanna hope. Parents who experience hardship throughout whatever pregnancy, birth, early childhood, maybe going through divorce, whatever. Parents and families who have hardships like this learn what every parent needs to learn. They're just learning it early and they're learning it more deeply. And that is exactly how I feel about divorced parents. Every time I am working with a divorced parent, or I'm helping two co parents, or I'm working with a couple who's going through divorce, the biggest topic that comes up around divorce is the idea that the kids are deeply affected, or just like my client said, innocent bystanders. They're casualties of this divorce. The truth is that if you are one of these people who's going through a divorce, has gone through a divorce, or a separation, you're just facing a truth that's completely deeply true for every parent. Because no matter if you are the perfect parent, the most perfect parent on the planet, whether you're married, whether you get separated, whether you have a blissful marriage, whether you have a high conflict marriage, your kids are always going to be the innocent bystanders to your unfinished business. That is true for all of us. Elijah, in that moment where he was just really upset that he had this like argumentative, aggressive person for a mom, he is the innocent bystander of my unfinished business. If I were fully healed and whole, I probably wouldn't be as argumentative as I am, but I am that way. And that is something that he has to figure out how to navigate. He is a casualty of my personality. He's a casualty of my unfinished business. That is true. Where we fall short, and we all do fall short, that leaves a forever mark on our children. And there's no way for us to escape that. We can't make that not true. One of the things I say to my clients a lot when it's the right time and we're ready to hear this is you are the first and hardest thing your child will ever have to get over. Having you as a parent is the first trauma your child will ever experience. I'm not talking about trauma with a capital T. I'm talking about little t trauma, those things that leave a forever mark on us, these experiences we have that forever impact us. We are that for our children. The only difference between a parent who has gone through something traumatic like that, or who has gone through this hardship versus a parent who hasn't, is that the parent who has actually knows that that's true. And the parent who hasn't gets to live in ignorant bliss for a little bit longer. But the great thing about it, realizing like I am my kid's trauma. It's a terrible thing to say. It feels like a knife in your heart, a punch in your gut. I totally get that. The beautiful, magical thing about this is that once you realize it and you face it, you actually can accept that. You don't have to be, deluding yourself or pretending that's not true or blowing smoke up your own ass is one of the ways I say that. You don't have to pretend that you're not leaving an indelible mark on your kids or that there's some way for that to not happen. Instead, we get to not only accept that this is true, but if you can take a 30,000-foot view and look at the earth from the moon practically and realize that since this is happening to every kid in every single family all across the globe, and it has always been this way since the beginning of time, this is kind of how the system is designed. It's actually supposed to be this way. So when we are trying to protect our kids from, whatever humanness we bring to our parenting, we're actually kind of trying to go against nature. It's not supposed to be like that. And that's kind of why it's impossible. You're really trying to do something that's completely impossible for trying to do that. The system is designed for us poor schlubs and fallible fuck ups to be raising magical, beautiful, sacred, holy beings. That's the system. So you can either torture yourself about it or you can decide, wow, I get that on a level that most people don't ever get. And so I can work on accepting it and simply doing my best. And once I accept this thing, now my focus and my energy and my parenting gets to go to something that's actually possible and so impactful for my children. What do we do about it once we say, okay, so that's a thing? I am leaving an indelible mark on my kid. I am something my kid has to get over. What do I do about it? Well, now we can say, okay, instead of trying not to impact my kid, I'm going to focus on working with my kid and shepherding them through this impact that they have with me. Like I did in that situation with Elijah of saying, yeah, it really sucks to have me as a mom sometimes. And one of your biggest challenges in life is figuring out how to navigate having me for a mom. And that sucks. And I can actually be with you in the trauma that I am inflicting on you in a really crazy, weird, wackadoodle way. I am simultaneously impacting you through my unfinished business and helping you navigate that impact at the same time. This is why that acceptance is so important. If I was still in the place of like, no, I'm traumatizing my kid. This can't be. I'm not allowed to do that. This is terrible. I have to stop being argumentative. I have to stop being aggressive. I have to turn into this totally different person that I am not when I'm in conversations with Elijah. Otherwise, I'm going to be traumatizing him. I just made his entire comment about me. I've put my entire focus on me and how crappy I am. I'm not helping my kid at all. But once I have that acceptance, now that comes the ability for me to release shame or guilt about whatever it is that's about me that's impacting my kid. And now I can attune to my child and be in service of him instead of being in service of assuaging my guilt. I really, really hope that this idea of our kids being innocent bystanders is the way that parenting works. It's the way that things are supposed to happen. I hope that you feel so much like liberation and freedom and empowerment from that idea, because releasing the stuff we can't control is one of the most important things we have to do as parents if we are going to find the resolve and the ability to address the things we can control. When our focus is on that stuff that we just wish it weren't true, when we spend all of our parenting time arguing with reality, we are leaving all of the potential we have in our relationship with our children on the table because we're wasting our time. This is a crazy thing that just popped into my head, but I'm going to tell you anyways. So yesterday, I out of the blue, just decided to agree with my son that he wanted me to play a video game with him, which I do not play video games. I am terrible at them. So I sat down with my husband, my son, and me to play a video game. And the entire time that my husband and my son it was a hockey game, working really hard at, you know, getting the puck towards the goalie and making a shot and blocking each other, doing all the things that they actually could do. I spent the entire game in the corner of the wall at the side of the ice rink trying to walk. Like I couldn't figure out how to do it. And so if you looked at the screen, it's looked like two people who were really purposefully working towards a goal and one person who was just like facing the corner of the rink and walking into the corner and going nowhere. That is what happens when we fixate on the stuff that we can't control or the stuff that we wish that weren't true. This is the image I want you to have in your head when you are perseverating on, arguing with reality or trying to make it so that you are perfect enough not to, you know, impact your kid, or their childhood is so pleasant and perfect that they're not going to have to get over anything or experience any hardship. All you're doing is being me in that hockey game. Just walking up against a wall. That's literally, I'm sure if you've ever played a video game, you know what I'm talking about, where the character is just like literally walking but going nowhere and just up against a wall. That's you when you're perseverating on the stuff you can't control. And when we do accept the stuff we can't control and really engage with the things that the power we do have, now we're like those players who are actually intentionally moving towards a goal. You actually are doing that. You're creating this childhood for your kid that's not perfect, that still bums them out, that still you showed up flawed and made mistakes, and those mistakes hurt your kid. And you are there to help them process and deal with and navigate the fact that they have a parent who hurts them sometimes. Obviously, I want to underscore for you, the hurt I'm talking about is not physical pain, and the hurt that we're talking about today is not capital T trauma like abuse and things like that. We're just talking about the reality of so many families, every family, which is trying to do our best and not really hitting the mark all of the time. And that does absolutely hurt our kids. I hope that's helpful for you today. I hope that you can start to think of your kids as innocent bystanders, as kind of the way it's supposed to be. Think about that and experiment with being okay with that. And at first, it might not be something that you can really do, and you still want to just kind of shake your fist at that. I totally get it. I have been there. I still am there sometimes. But the more we can even experience just for even a few moments, that idea of like, yep, sorry, you have an argumentative kind of pistol of a mom. And if you want to go to the mattresses with me, I will go there with you. And that's something that kind of sucks about having me as a mom. If you can have that attitude about whatever it is that you see your flaws are, you are killing it. And I'm so happy for you. And if you want help getting to that place, which I can tell you 100%, I did not get there by myself. And I need help still to stay there and get back there when I get away from there. This is what a free discovery call is for. There's a link to book it in the show notes. I am here for you to help you really take a clear look at what's going on in your family, talk about what you want it to look like and how to get there, and discuss exactly what it looks like to make that happen. Have a great week, everybody, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
The episode is over, but there's more waiting for you. You can grab my free workbook, Getting Kids to Listen the First Time, that walks you through the fundamental principles I teach all of my clients and applies them to this very universal parenting challenge. So if you're sick of repeating yourself all day long or just want to learn more about my style, you'll definitely want to go to bit.ly/kidswholisten. And if you're ready to work with me, let's meet. Set up a free call at bit.ly/Kaplan call, and let's create an action plan that gets you exactly where you want to go. And of course, links to all this goodness are in the show notes. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you next time.